What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Size Up by National Fire Radio, because what you do off the job matters. And if you are tuning in on YouTube, or I throw this clip up or any clip up, well, probably just this clip, because it's definitely, these things are not staying on my face the whole time. But you'll notice that I am wearing sunglasses today, and there is a purpose for that. It's not just so you could see my cool lighting setup in the background here. That I have going on. But it's funny because before I introduce my guest, and then you'll figure out really rapidly why I'm wearing sunglasses here. But we were just kind of talking, and I think I might have said this a few episodes ago or a lot of episodes ago, but it's so funny because a lot of guests that I have, it is their first time on a podcast. Today's guest is not. But I tell all my guests the same things because I feel the same way too. I hit the record button and the timer starts, right? And I'll look down around like every time, like religiously. This is like true to every episode. It'll be like 8 or 9 minutes. And I'm like, oh my God, how are we going to keep talking? Like, how many more things can I talk to this guest, whoever it is? And you guys have heard my episodes, right? Every guest, I still get that same feeling. And the guest kind of gets it too. But we just keep flowing through and flowing through. And the next thing you know, you look down and I'm like, oh God, I got to get to the Size Up 10. I don't want to keep this person over an hour. Clearly, I've kept people way longer over an hour because we just keep talking. And I have no clue why that is. You know, it does happen to me when I'm on other podcasts, and I'm not saying it's me, but this is totally unscripted. This is just a natural conversation between two people. Sometimes they're my friends. Sometimes I've never met them before or even barely talked to them before. It's just fun to be able to talk to people. And I feel like that's something, I don't want to call it a lost art in our society, but like people don't want to talk. Like, and I've talked about it, you know, you guys, if you listen to the episode with my son, Finn, and I'm just as guilty for it. Like, how easy is it to just pick up your phone and shoot a text and you're not really talking, right? You're texting, and some of those, listen, I have some deep text message threads in here, but I feel like when we're actually trying to communicate and we're actually listening. And maybe that's what I've learned the most in this podcast journey is how to be a better listener, because I love listening to what my guest has to say and then replying or building on that to go into our next conversation. So that's my little intro for today anyway about podcasting, because now I like to tell people all about it. I'm going to knock these sunglasses off here in a second just because it's killing me to see myself wearing. Even though I wear these sunglasses all the time, I cannot do this on a podcast, this whole episode, especially with the two. Mike, can you see that? You see the ring light like in my eyes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right? Like, it's not a ring light. It's just a big light there, you know, to help with the lighting here in the illustrious podcast studio. But Mike from Frontline Optics, whose sunglasses I'm happen to be wearing, what's happening today, brother?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me on the show.
Can I take them off? Do you want me to do a side view? Is there anything you want to say about them while I'm wearing them right now? Like,
I mean, they look good on you. They look good on you. We were talking off air a second ago. You were struggling to put them on over your headphones. I'm like, just throwing them on like you're on the headset on the rig. And you told me you don't have those.
Yeah, we don't use those in Jersey.
We're going to have to talk a little bit more about the East Coast, West Coast differences.
Oh, dude, oh my God, now it's like a whole different world. A whole different world taking those sunglasses off. There's definitely, listen, and again, I say it every week, but for my guests that aren't in the emergency, or my listeners who aren't in the emergency services, there are definite like East Coast, West Coast, like early 90s rap battle vibes between firefighters from the East Coast and from the West Coast, correct, Mike?
Big time. Like,
and maybe it's not, you know, we're not as violent as maybe that battle that I chose to pick was, let's say, but I guess it's all in good jesting. But you guys do things very differently than we do things, and vice versa. Not necessarily in a bad way. It's just different, right? That's the easiest way I explain it to people.
Yeah, I mean, I would say different tactics. I've obviously never worked on the East Coast, so I couldn't necessarily point. All we got are videos and things like that. But, you know, building constructions are different. Tactics are different. It's just, you know, it's a big country. So what's happening
There's
all the way over on your coast is a lot different than mine.
I mean, one thing for sure on the West Coast, and people ask us this when we go to these calls, they're like, I don't understand. They knocked over the fire hydrant. How come water's not shooting out like you see in the movies? But
yeah,
that really does happen on the West Coast.
Oh, big time. Because, I mean, we have all of our hydrants for the most part are charged unless you're in those communities that freeze. So they're ready to go, you know. So if you shoot that
and
hydrant,
there's the answer. Why in the Northeast?
It's a bad day for the probie. He's got to go find, you know, where the
You gotta
shutoff
go
valve
find the
is.
shut off. It's funny when I watch videos online, because obviously they're everywhere. Like someone will be holding an umbrella sometimes as a joke over the poor guy who's just getting blasted from the water coming down.
Yep. Yep. Keep a
So here on the
poncho
East
with you.
Coast, due to freezing, we have dry well hydrants. So there's no water actually in the hydrant. We have to turn the valve, and that opens the end, and the water comes through it. So that's why on the east northeast, I even think in Florida they have dry valve hydrants. I'm not really sure. I'll have to ask.
I don't know.
But yeah, so that's why you don't see water blowing out here in Jersey or anywhere. Definitely north of Jersey, maybe a little south. They have some wet hydrants, but we do not here. So that
Very
is
much.
definitely a huge difference. But yeah, we don't have headsets. I wish we did. We just don't.
Yeah, I can't even imagine how you have the fun little chit chat conversations. I guess you probably don't. Just
There's lots of yelling. No, we just yell at each other. Yeah, we just yell at each other. That's pretty much what it. I mean, that's New Jersey speak anyway. Is just yelling at each other. Like in
Makes
general,
sense. It's natural.
Firehouse speak is even louder. But yeah, between trying to listen to the radio and trying to communicate with everybody, I guess normally the officer and the driver talk, and then the two guys in the back talk is kind of the easiest way to put it. And when we all have to talk together, that's when the yelling starts.
Right. That makes sense.
Although
Yeah, for us,
rigs,
I mean, you throw the headsets on, you got the guy in the back and the tiller, and it's like he's right there with you. Everyone's just having a conversation. Some jerk is sitting there eating chips and doesn't hit the mic off, so you just hear through the whole system. But every crew's got that guy.
Yeah, there's always going to be one of them for sure. Yeah, even in I'm trying to think of like the local tiller companies. We don't have one that responds into where I work, but there are a lot of tillers in New Jersey, and I'm not even sure, man. They may just have like the push to talk type thing to go front to back, which I would imagine is kind of lonely back there if you're not able to communicate with everybody and be a part of the conversation.
Yeah, it would be a little secluded for sure. But it's
I
the
will
best
say
seat in the
this
house.
too. I will say this too, though, but newer apparatus has gotten way quieter than, when I started my department, all of our reserve rigs and one frontline rig was still open cab in the back. So we were still riding outside in the back, sometimes separated from everybody totally, sometimes seated right next to the person, very close. But as we bought new apparatus, it's gotten quieter, and talking has become definitely easier.
Yeah, it's I didn't have the experience for the old ones. I did some like reserve time, and I got to see some of the older engines that they had. So I've been around them, but I've never actually operated on one. So I've had those nice little headsets since day one.
Oh, you've been too like a prima donna, let's say. I started, and the reserve rig was a 79 Mac, so a year younger than me. Open cab in the rear where you sat next to the person. And when they built it, they didn't build the overhang for you far enough to keep you totally dry when it was raining. But the rain wasn't the problem. The problem was when they would step on the brakes, all of the water would just and shoot down. So, I had a really senior man driver when I first started on the company that I started in with, and like they would have it timed. I mean, like he would be able to get gallons of water on that roof before he'd hit the brakes just to soak us in the back.
Epic.
Good times there for sure. But anyway, so let's talk here. Where are we going to start? Do you want to start in your fire service career, and then you're kind of like how you got into this? Because the world of sunglasses is an interesting place. So let's go to the fire service and your life, and then we'll get to sunglasses a little bit later.
Yeah, sounds good. So I grew up in Santa Barbara. I was always kind of dabbling between what's my uncle and one of my uncles and cousins were big in business, and so I kind of looked up to them and was kind of into that entrepreneurial path, you could say. But the thing that kind of really got me going is anytime I saw any kind of flashing lights, sirens, whatever it may be, I was that kid that like had to stop, had to see what was going on, wanted to stay. I had a little scanner radio and a Thomas Book map guide, and I would like look and see when the calls were coming out, if they were close enough that I could ride my bike over and catch a glimpse of the heroes, right? Like that was my like childhood. So naturally, I had to make a decision which way I was going to go. and it wasn't really that easy. I went to college, and first year of college, I'll admit it, you know, some 18-year-old kids are pretty squared away, and then others are like
Not
still
many,
14.
though. Like, not
I
many.
was still a 14-year-old, 18-year-old, right?
I'm a
So I walked up.
wait. I'm a 14-year-old, 45-year-old on most days, so it's okay.
Truth,
But
truth.
it is a really good point what you're saying here, though. Like, and it's kind of a, I don't want to pause your story, but like, it's so hard. And now I have a 14-year-old boy, right?
Right.
And he's definitely not squared away. Let's go with that. I love him to death, but squared away is not my son's, not the definition for my son. However, he knows the path he wants to go on, as he moves forward with acting and music and things. But to think that in just 4 years, you may have to be like, this is it. This is what you have to do. And it's going to control your whole life. You know, that 18-year-old, 14-year-old, 18-year-old it's a rough time, it sounds
It's a
like. And I
lot.
think that could be where you're going, right? Because I was
Yeah,
that kid
it's a
too. Don't
lot.
worry.
So yeah, I went to a career day at the college. I was in Santa Barbara, so there was members of the Santa Barbara County Fire Department were there, and I remember walking up to them and being like, "Hey, like I want to be a firefighter." And you know, I probably look like worse than I do right now, right? Not clean shaven, my hair's all over the place, I'm wearing flip flops, and they just like this kid, right? And so they gave me what was some good advice, which was to grow up. They said it nicely, but I was like, "Hey, like." We're not looking for kids in the station, right? We're looking for adults. So why don't you go to college and do something else and get some life experience? And once you have that life experience and that maturity, if this is still something you want to do after that point, come back and talk to us then, and then we'll put you on the right path. But until then, right, you gotta figure out your line, essentially. And you know, I could have taken that one of two ways, and I took it as the way of like, all right, like that. If that's what I got to do, that's what I got to do. So I went to college and ended up going down kind of the business path. I was an economics major, but I was kind of business leaning. Did some business stuff. Finished college, started working in business, and didn't satisfy me working for someone else. You know, I was punching the clock every day. I was waiting for the time to change to, you know, 5 o'clock so I could jump in the car and go home. You know, it was
do
the
business stuff
standard.
anymore.
What's that?
Not do business stuff anymore.
Yeah,
It's funny
it
the
was
way
just
you
the
describe that.
standard.
My wife and I, that's what we do. Like when it's like, hey, what does Jimmy, your cousin, do? I'm like, I don't know, business type stuff, because like that's
Yeah,
not businessy things. Like, and even when people are like, oh, they go in the office, they do business work. I don't even know what that is. Like, what
well,
would you
there's
describe
like
business work
there's
as?
corporate work, and then there's like entrepreneurship, right? And so corporate work it's a 9 to 5. You get your tasks, you got your jobs, you do them. You don't necessarily feel so much like they matter at times, depending on the culture of the company that you're at. But you're working for your paycheck, and that's it. It's the reason there. You're punching the clock for a paycheck, so you can go and do whatever you do outside of work.
So basically,
Um,
office space, the
yeah,
movie Office Space. In fireman
pretty
terms, it's Office Space, which I
pretty
get.
accurate. Pretty accurate. Um, Obviously not fulfilling. So one night I was driving my car home and I saw someone fall asleep at the wheel of their car. They flipped their car on the 15 freeway into some like ice plant on the side of the road. And I jumped out to try and help get her out of the car. And kind of the scene developed as fire and police and everyone just showed up around. And I watched it all happen. And it was like this aha moment. Like, this is what it's all about. Like, look at them, right? Like making a difference, like making an impact in the world. The job is important. And I kind of decided at that moment that was going to be when I wanted to rededicate or realign my life to go after the fire service. And I pursued it relentlessly then from that point for a handful of years before I finally got on.
So it's interesting too, because I know on the West Coast there's a lot more of like fire science programs in colleges and things, and that wasn't something that even those guys. And again, it's an interesting recruiting approach to be like, get your life together, kid, and then come back and talk to us. But clearly it works, and you
Yeah.
went that route. But I'm surprised that in that time frame though, you weren't even thinking about looking to do a college fire science thing or anything.
No, I've found myself back on that business path. You know,
Yeah,
when I
right
was
into
in
that.
college, I started a safe ride home program, we could call it, but we basically leased out a 40 passenger city bus We put some like really cheap rope lights up in it and a sound system. And we transported kids back and forth from San Diego State to Pacific Beach on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. So
Nice.
I always had that. There's that little piece of me that was like always there, like finding opportunities. And this was pre-Uber, pre-Lyft, right? So you're talking kids were either going to spend $60 each way for a cab ride, or they were going to jump in the car and drive drunk. So we created this new option that was, $20 round trip, and you got drink tickets with it and front of the line privileges with our wristband and all. We teamed up with everyone. Mothers Against Drunk Driving supported us. Like it was a cool little experience. Didn't make a lot of money, but it was still an opportunity to like see a situation that there was a fix, implement the fix, and monetize it. So,
especially pre-Uber. I mean, that would like,
exactly.
I'm not saying you invented Uber because, we'll both get sued if we claim that out loud or anything. But like,
right.
It's always been like the college drunk bus, like they would have them, but like to do the whole kind of party aspect. And it's so I work in a college town, and I have avoided the college firehouse area the best that I can, just because I just didn't want to deal with it after a few rookie years I was there, and since then I'm like, I'm good. But so I ended up there. I was on the car this past Saturday, and I ended up over there doing some stuff with the guys, and all of a sudden hordes of college kids are walking by us in these white t-shirts. And we're like, what's up with the white t-shirts? And they're like, it's a bar crawl. We paid $15 online. And I'm like, some genius printed t-shirts for probably $2.50 a t-shirt, right?
Yep.
Got some bars involved, and it cost the bars nothing, right? It's just, hey, give them $1 off a drink. Okay, wow, there's a big save.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like whatever, even if they remembered they were getting after bar, there were 8 of our local bars on the back of this shirt, and like, you would check off which ones you went to, I guess, with your Sharpie marker.
Yep.
Mike, I'm not even kidding. We saw no less, and I was only there it started at 3. I was there at like 3:20. And in that area, I saw no less than 100 kids with these t-shirts on. And I'm like, $15 a pop. You get a little website, you do that's my like entrepreneurial brain. And now you're saying you did this, and I'm like, God, imagine if that was a college kid. I'm like, for a college kid, that's like food for a month. Yeah, to do
a lot of money.
To do absolutely nothing, literally absolutely nothing, right?
Yeah. Just some time, right?
And some time, and you get the t-shirts printed, and the design wasn't anything great. And then in typical college fashion, some of the young ladies we were speaking to about this were like, and the shirts really suck. That's why we had to cut them, but they look so, whatever word she utilized to describe herself now, that I didn't understand.
That's amazing.
Right, but that's that entrepreneurship that you're getting.
It was fun. Halloween was obviously a very fun night on the bus.
Worst night to work in a year. Halloween in college town, worst night to work in a year.
Yeah, definitely. But when you're in college, Halloween in college town is a great night.
And do like to think about, and not only that, but right, like you said too, like at that time, if they weren't spending all the money on the cab, they were going to get in the car and possibly drive drunk. So you're already preventing a problem, you know what I mean, from occurring. Like you're already doing that helper type job that we describe ourselves in.
Correct. It was more, there was a fix that could fix a pretty significant problem. And that's why Mothers Against Drunk Driving was on board with what we were doing, because we were helping to, from the carbon footprint, you could say, right? Especially coming from San Diego, right? Like carbon footprint, less cars on the road, less drunk drivers on the road, keeping kids safe. They're going to go there anyway, so why not give them a safe way of doing it, and it's affordable. So we were like hitting all those boxes.
That's a win. As a 20-year-old man, that's like a win right there. You were those guys might have been wrong. Maybe you were more squared away than you appeared to be. Let's say.
Yeah. But yeah, so obviously that wasn't lucrative enough to pay the bills post-college. So that was a college thing. You could almost call it like an MBA in business that we got from doing it. And then both my business partner and I went and did other things, right? I went into government sales, which is not fun. He became a CPA, later became a lawyer, right? So we went different paths. But it was at that bus, when I was driving the bus home, was actually when I saw the the accident and kind of set the pace for wanting to go into the fire service. So that was what, 2011, I want to say. By 2012, I had my EMT license, started working, doing 911 as an EMT. Did that through 2015. I went to paramedic school, got my paramedic, and then in 2016 and 2017, I got my first fire job. I did some reserve work prior to that once I had the EMT, but this was my first paid fire job. It was April 2017. And I worked there, and then I got hired in the city of Coronado, and then I stayed in the city of Coronado until October 2022, which is when I left to do the next thing, which was design those fabulous looking eyewear that you had on there.
You know, and when you say that too, like the EMS route is something that I tell everyone to go when they're looking to get hired somewhere. Like start in, if you're not try to get hired, but start in EMS. That's where I came from. I had a very different skill set than a lot of the people that were getting hired around the time that I got hired, because I came from EMS. I had an EMS skill set. I wasn't the builder. I'm not a very mechanically inclined person. Like if something breaks in my house, I usually call someone to fix it. It's just, I'm mechanically inclined. I'm just not the best at those things, you know, like I hate painting to begin with, but like, I just had a different area of expertise, let's say, than a lot of the other people because of my EMS background. And I feel like it's a really good introduction to like, do you want to do this job? 100%. Because you get to see a lot of things and you get to experience a lot of things that when you get into the fire service, you already have those experiences as opposed to people getting them from the first time in that way.
Exactly. It's a lot. I teach EMT and paramedic now, and the EMT class is that opportunity as well, where I kind of tell people like, hey, this is your chance to try it, right? And see, you might see that call and you're just like, like I can't do this for the rest of my life, or work those hours. And it's like, I'm not a 12, 24, 48 hour worker, right? Like I can't do those hours, and they can get out of it before they've fully committed all the time and energy and, you know, resources to getting on the job. Because once you're on the job, it's very challenging. It was hard for me, but very challenging to walk away from, because you won the lottery at that point.
Yeah. And again, it's that time and effort, you know, where like, and I'm in no way, talking down to EMS at all by saying start that way, but there's way more ambulances out there than there are fire trucks is an easiest way to put that. Right.
Yeah.
And even when people start, you know, I just have a guy that, on my shift who's working transport now as a side gig. And even he's like, I like doing this. And that's a good way to start, to kind of get, again, that feel for how this is. And then maybe you do want to advance, you know, like you went to paramedic school. I went to paramedic school. And that end of it is that medicine end, where EMT class is no easy class to take, but it's easier than the paramedic class is kind of a way to put it.
Big time. Big time. I tell my students that too, because a lot of times they'll come up and like, I'm having trouble studying and this and that. I'm like, look, man, you told me at the start of this class you want to go to medic school, right? Like, this is easy. So you got to figure it out here, right? Figure out your study habits. Figure out if this is really what you want to do. Because if you're going to try and go paramedic, ain't going to cut it, you know?
And it's crazy that it's still like a thought that like, oh, EMT class is like first aid. Like it's not. This is not 1972 anymore. It's not Johnny and Ray and Roy, or like the 5-point star we had here in New Jersey type thing. EMT class is a full-on college semester of class for those out there listening. Like you need to be in the books. The knowledge you need to have, or that you get in a very short amount of time, is, I'm not going to say it's absurd, but it is a lot. And then for paramedic, it's even more. That builds on that, like on steroids, I guess is an easy way to put it.
But EMT, I mean, you get kids coming out of high school, they're taking that class, and it's the first time that they've really had like a true curriculum, right? Where it's like, you need to learn this skill in 6 months, right? That's all you've got from the beginning to the end. And then you're going to take a written test to make sure you know it up here. And you're going to take a physical test to make sure you can actually do it. And then you got to go to a job. And if you did just good enough to pass the school, you're not going to get hired. And you're going to be stuck in this like purgatory in the middle where you're not good enough to get on the job, but you're not, you know, you can't go back because you've already passed the license and now you're never going to get hired. So
it's another thing too for a younger kid coming out of high school. It could be the first time in their life where like the skill you learn in week 1, you build on it in week 2 and week 3, and you keep going on. But you still need to have the skill from week 1. You have to have that perfected by the end of the class. But you got 8 million more in between.
Right. It's a lot.
It is,
but I mean, it's so fun. It's so fun. I had so much fun as an EMT. I would almost say at times I had more fun as an EMT than as a paramedic because there was less pressure.
Yeah, I can see that as a fair
Being
statement.
a paramedic's more fulfilling,
sure.
Because you are for sure the one keeping somebody alive, right? You're keeping the Reaper at bay. But the EMT is just, the driving and the moving the equipment around and like the pre-thinking what your medic might need without the stress and without the paperwork, without the liability. It was a fun few years while I was screaming around the city, lights and sirens.
I just said it to somebody the other day. Like when you're the EMT and the medic shows up, you're like, yes, the medic is here. Like we're good. The medics are here. Whereas when you're the medic and you show up, you're like, oh shit, it's me.
Yeah.
Listen, I've said it numerous times. I wasn't the smartest of medics out there, let's say. Like I was a good medic, but I definitely was not all the like every single thing I remembered about the body and those types of things. But like you get to that point, like you said, that pressure where it's like, this is on you, way more stressful than anything else.
Yeah, big time. Fun though.
Yeah, definitely a fun job. Like I don't, like I said, I will never talk down to it. And I do miss the medicine end of it. Like I really liked medicine. I married a physician assistant. Like medicine is a constant in my life.
Right.
But it just wasn't the direction I was going in anymore at the time when I became a paramedic. So kind of like you, I stopped being a paramedic, but kept being a firefighter.
Right. Yeah.
Were you able to be a medic for Coronado? Like as in your department?
You have to be. Yeah. Okay. It's a requirement. So our engines are all ALS. So to get hired by the department, we had a handful of guys, like older guys that were pre-paramedic requirement.
Sure.
But that's now phased out, and everyone in the entire department is medic. There's no EMTs left.
So we all have to be EMTs. In New Jersey, you can't be a medic on the fire engine. Just different rules.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah. Different rules everywhere you go. But like for you, when I got hired, we had some older guys who weren't EMTs because they got grandfathered in. So it was always interesting when like the EMTs would show up or paramedics would show up and they would be trying to talk to like who they would think was the guy they'd be there talking to. And they're like, no, it's him. Talk to him over there. Like, we don't do this end of it. There's no patch on my sleeve type thing.
Yeah.
But
what do you want me
to
carry?
Just from their experience being on the engine though, I would have taken any one of them on an ambulance any day of the week.
For sure. I mean, they knew most of what you learn on the job from doing and anticipation, and it just comes with time.
Yeah, and that's it. Like they saw enough. They knew what was up. They could get you to the hospital, and they could get you the help you needed in an efficient way for sure.
Right on. Yeah, it was
so you
good
did the
stuff.
Coronado thing for a while, and then.
Yeah. So while working there, right, like anybody in any of the services knows, like your uniform's picked out for you. There's not a lot of personality that you can bring to your uniform. So for me, it was sunglasses was the thing I took to. And I had a collection of a bunch of different, I was an Oakley guy, so it was Oakley Holbrooks. I had some silver ones and some green ones and some blue ones and red ones, But you get the back of a rig on the way to a call, it's a nightmare back there, right? Things are flying everywhere. You want to get there first because if you're like second, third in, you're not getting a good assignment, right? So
you're last. If you're not first, you're last.
Yeah. So it's like you better get there first truck, first engine, right? So it's a nightmare back there, and everything goes flying. And then after the call, you pick up the piece, and it's like, okay, where's my cell phone? Where's my keys? Where's my sunglasses? And my glasses would just get like crushed, broken, lost. Constantly, and it's that was $200.
True story.
So I said, hey, being the way that I am, there's got to be a better way. These things can't really be that expensive. So I started looking into how do you manufacture your own sunglasses, and became obsessed, you could say, with it. And that was all I did in all my downtime while the guys were sitting in the bullpen at night watching movies. I was sitting there with them with my laptop up, searching how to build sunglasses, how to design sunglasses, what components, what lens materials, all that stuff. And got some samples, basically took $5,000 in forced overtime money. So I wasn't expecting to have that cash anyway, and said, I'm going to put this money to work.
I like it.
Bought 300 pairs of sunglasses, a website, trademarked the name, got a business license, and I was a sunglasses guy at that moment with no idea how to sell it.
Was that Frontline, or was it another company?
That was Frontline.
That was Frontline.
That was Frontline.
In between, scrappy college kid in a drunk bus and Frontline, did you do any entrepreneurship at all?
Nope.
Nope.
All my energy was trying to get on the job at that point. It was becoming an EMT, becoming a good EMT, becoming a paramedic, becoming a good paramedic, becoming a firefighter, becoming a good firefighter, getting on as I was an acting engineer. So at the very end there, so I was constantly kind of progressing through the ranks of fire. And that was what was driving me up to a point where that little light bulb went off again, where I saw this problem.
But that's that business drive, right? That entrepreneurial drive is the same as being a good EMT, being a good paramedic, being a good firefighter, is putting everything you have into what you do, right? And I feel like good firefighters, good paramedics, good EMTs, they don't even realize that they have that drive in them, because it's not like where, when you make you make sunglasses and you sell them and you see this return in sales, right? Or in let's just say followers on Instagram or something.
Right.
Whereas being a good EMT, being a good paramedic, all that work you put in is just like, hey, there's another call pending for you. Or hey, good job. We get honored for things, but you generally get honored because you happen to be in the right place at the right time. But all that other work that you do, it's not necessarily seen, I guess is a good way to put it. And then people don't appreciate what they've done to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Looks like you might have froze up for me there. You still there?
Oh, no, I did. Am I back? You're good.
Oh, all right.
You're good.
All right, cool. You're back.
Okay.
Cool.
No, I didn't freeze, so
see. It's
welcome to the internet.
Yeah, right. 2024.
Yep.
But yeah, so the sunglasses, I had to figure out how to sell them now that I had the 300 of them. And so that process took a while because I'd never sold anything on the internet. I'd never kind of gone down that side of things. And it took me about a year to really figure out advertising. And once that happened, it was this snowball, and the thing just kind of blew up. It started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. All at the same time, we're in the thick of COVID now. In our fire department, we're not hosting tests, so we don't have an applicant pool to come in. We've got people who are retiring. We have people who left the state of California. So things started getting busier for us, right? The engine's got to be staffed. So even though we're short-staffed, you just work more, right? So I was working 6, 7, 8 days in a row, 1 to 2 days off, 6, 7, 8 days in a row. So the business was blowing up. I was forced at work constantly. I couldn't give the right amount of energy to it. And I had some small children at home, and I, basically at that point saw I've got this thing that is growing that will allow me to be home with my family and be a good father and be a good husband and be there for the baseball games and the soccer games and the school performances and the drop-offs and read books to them every night and be just kind of a better version of myself. Because those 6, 7, 8 days in a row at the station, I was coming home like a shell of myself.
Sure.
So it ultimately got to a point where I had to decide one or the other. And I opted to kind of pick my family and my business over the job, I guess you could say. And I walked away.
Sure. And listen, that you can hear it in the way you say it. For anybody listening, that is not an easy decision. And it's something that I can clearly tell you love to do. And it sucks when you're put into that situation, that when something you love to do is something that's causing outside stressors, and it's not even your fault. That, again, you had, a department that was not hiring, then COVID hit, and you had more people leaving, and all these things. I didn't quite understand the internet blowing up of the Mando van, because we don't get mandatory at all. Very very rarely does it happen where I work,
Yeah.
let's say. But when you looked out west, and in the Midwest especially, you had people working, like you said, 6 days in a row in a firehouse. Like,
Yeah.
how does that even occur
Yeah.
in a place where I know people? I fought to get this job. I tested everywhere, struggling to do it. And somehow, pre-COVID, this even was, something got missed somewhere, no clue, not for us to figure out. But you had to make that decision. And I feel like a lot of folks don't even have, I guess let's call it the constitution, to make that decision for themselves and their family to leave. And it's something that isn't easy, but I commend you for doing it, when you knew you had to.
Appreciate it. But yeah, that was just that I had a fallback, so there were a lot of guys that were stressed, but they were trapped, right? Then we talk about it at the back table, like, well, what would I do? Right? There's nothing else that I can do. And I looked at it, I was like, well, I talked to these firefighters once, they told me to go get some life experience prior to getting on the fire service. So I know that I can do other things. And so I put all those skills together, including, what I learned from the fire service. And I created a product for firefighters, police officers, paramedics. So I'm still kind of in that space and taking the knowledge that I got from everything over the course of my life to wrap it into this new approach, which is Frontline Optics.
We call that being unemployable. That's what we say at the firehouse. We've worked here for so long, we're unemployable. Like, it's like saying you're institutionalized from the fire service. Same thing. You're unemployable because this is what you do all the time, right? But
exactly.
And I preach this to people because, look, I've been fortunate in just this crazy world that I fell into, and I talk about it all the time. But like, I thought I was unemployable, let's say, before I got myself out there more and discovered all these different things. There's so many things that we learn as EMTs, paramedics, firefighters, and we apply to our job that make you employable in so many different places, you can't even realize it.
Yeah, I mean, we're a jack of all trades, right? And we are people who perform well under pressure. And pressure is one of those things that a lot of people don't perform well under pressure. You put them under pressure, and that's when they cavitate, and it's not going to happen.
And then for us, their level of pressure isn't even pressure. It's just like, what do you mean? That thing's broke? Give me some zip ties and duct tape. I'll fix it right now. Like, it'll work,
exactly.
Right?
We can make this work.
And
we're still in service.
It's still good. We can keep doing this. It's the same thing though, as when you explain to folks, like, that's why you call us. You know what I mean? Like, you didn't call me, but you call us. Like, people call us because they need help. That is the number one call we get. Is just they need help in some way, shape, or form. We provide that help, even if it's something that's not in our realm. We usually tend to, like, I like to say that probably in my career, I've left 98% of the situations better than I found them in.
Right.
And not just me, my crew, because everyone was there together doing it, right? But like, that is a valuable skill that you're able to help and provide that change to so many different businesses. And I think that's probably what led you again into this optics world. You saw your problem at work with optics and were like, you did the search, how many firefighters are there in the United States? And they probably all wear sunglasses.
They do, right? They do. And so, the hardest part for us is getting our name out there, right? Because you advertise something on the internet and there's so much junk on the internet that it's hard to know if you're like getting a quality product until you get it in your hands. And so that was like the hardest thing for us at the start, was to convince people that, like, hey, like, there's a difference in quality, or there doesn't have to be a difference in quality between a gas station pair and a $200 pair. Like, there's a middle road there where you can get everything that you get from those big designers without having to pay for the name. And so that's where we play. We source our lenses from the same manufacturers that make them for the big designer brands that you'd recognize. We use the same components, the same facilities and manufacturing processes to make sure that we're putting out a good quality product. But because we don't have that brand name, we don't inflate the price. And so they're not cheap, right? We're not making cheap gas station. And everyone knows when you throw a cheap pair of gas station sunglasses on, they're cheap. You can tell when you walk outside that it's not very clear. They don't feel sturdy. If you sit on them, they're going to crush, right? We want to make sure that they feel bomb-proof in your hands, but at the same time, they don't hurt your heart when they do find their way down that metal seat and squashed.
This is a no
engineer's bag.
I'm not being paid to say this by Mike and Frontline Optics right now, but I can't tell you how many people I've worked with who've been like, I've probably spent more money on cheap gas station sunglasses that I've lost or broke in my career than what if I would have just bought a good pair or like a middle of the road pair and took care of them, because you
Exactly.
just keep spending that money again because you don't care, because you're like, oh, these cost me $4, whatever, and then $4 next week, and then $4
Yeah.
next week, and then $4
Yep.
next week. You could have
Adds
spent
up.
$50 and been like, well, I care more about these, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. And it's just enough, right? It's enough that you will care about them, but if something does happen, it's not going to like crush your soul. And then if it does, we got our no questions asked replacement program. So lose them, break them, get bored of them. Anything happens, we'll replace it one time. No questions asked. Just pay a small service fee, and we'll ship a brand new pair to your door. So we
I just
know they're
happened
going
to
to get
see some.
busted.
I just happened to see some famous friends of mine and former podcast guests doing an internet commercial about them, and them running them over with their fire apparatus. So
They certainly did. They certainly did.
Guys, that Jason Patton, he's everywhere you need him to be and more.
He is. He is, and always jacked up on coffee.
I probably, now that I say, it's almost like Beetlejuice. Like if I say his name 3 times, he'll probably text me this week. I almost guarantee. Like he knows that I've said his name. Like
Perfect.
disturbance in his force, and he's like, yeah, let me call Pip and see what's up.
Yeah, Jason's a good dude. He's definitely a good dude.
He definitely is. But again, like you snuck in there too, and I wanna talk some more about this. It's hard to get eyes on you, right? Like it's hard. You have a good product. Look, I've had these sunglasses for whatever 6 months now, however long ago we met for the first time, you know, and here they are. They're still trucking, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're quality when you wear them. They stay on your face, like. But getting your message out there. I mean, now that I said sunglasses, after we're done, I'm gonna get all kinds of things on my phone about sunglasses, and who knows who that person is. I'm to the point now, my wife and I are to the point now where if we see something on social media that we like, we may send it back and forth to each other, but then we're Googling, is it even a real company? Because I'm not sending you my money and never getting a product.
Right. And that's the hard part, you know, that's the hard part. And it's one of the reasons why I try and go on podcasts, trying to get on shows and interviews and all that, is so that when people do look to see, like, is this real? You know, it is, because there's so much fluff and garbage and fraud like all over the internet that, you know, people are hesitant to punch in their credit card number on a website online.
I don't get how it still happens. Like it's happened for so long. Like it's like, you know what I mean? Like you figure we'd be on that by now, right? Like the old pyramid scheme. Like if you're still getting into a pyramid scheme, we really got to talk, person, whoever you are, listener. Like
totally.
if someone tells you something that just sounds too good to be true, it is. But you would think by now the internet would really be ahead of the junk, but they're not, is what you're saying.
No, it's there's just so many sites popping up at every time, and like, you know, you advertise on Facebook and Instagram, they it's bots that check everything, right? There's not like a real person. So if you can outsmart the bot and make it look legit, then it's going to give you the green light to start running your ads until you get a bunch of negative reviews, and then get shut down, and then they do it again, right? So
just change the name and start again.
Yeah, unfortunate, but
listen, I can't outsmart the bots, so I'm sorry. I've tried already. It doesn't work for me.
They're pretty clever, those things.
They just keep getting smarter. It's literally going into it. We're
AI, man.
It's going to become self-aware. See, and AI too, like you can use AI for good or you can use AI for bad, right? And it's those type of like, it's so smart, but maybe it's just too smart.
Yeah, it's freaking me out a little bit. Terminators can happen 20 years from now and get run by machines.
Skynet's becoming self-aware. I'm a full I'm not a conspiracy theorist guy, but we're watching it all happen. I've seen the movie.
Skynet is ChatGPT.
Yeah. But again, too, it's that struggle that you're in now, but you're realizing that, right? That this is your main thing. Like you have a quality product as I hold it up, and if someone's still watching on YouTube, you'll see it. Like the product is out there. The reviews are out there. You have folks in the emergency services kind of promoting it to folks in the emergency services. You're going on the podcast. So that's the work you're doing to combat that, right? That you have to keep doing.
Yep, absolutely. You just stay out there, stay in front of people. Ultimately, the more you get them in front of people, fire departments are small places. So you get one guy at the station who gets them in, and everyone gets an opportunity to see them, touch them, feel them, learn about them. validates it, and then it starts to spread, and you see it. You'll get one guy at a department, and then two, and then three, and then the next thing you know, people are seeing him everywhere.
You
So it's
cannot
the name of
answer
the
this.
game. It's slow, but word of mouth.
Well, I love word of mouth too, and I know that's working. And you cannot answer this, but have you noticed an uptick because you plugged your we will send you a new pair of sunglasses if you break these sunglasses a little bit before. But so say I break my sunglasses and you send me a new pair. Do you notice an uptick at that department after that moment? Once the person realizes like, oh, this is the deal.
I haven't looked at the data, so I
Oh, you got to
couldn't.
look then. You got to look
Yeah,
because I know, again, I know firefighters. I know me and my skepticalness of all things. Like, I would be like, yo, that dude sent you another pair after you sat on him, you dumbass. Like, okay, I'm in. I'm buying a pair.
yeah, yeah. I would think so. I would think so. We get more reviews off of the no questions asked replacement when someone makes that purchase, which yeah, it's like the light bulb goes off at that point. Like it was real, like
Yeah,
they
no,
really
that's
did
it.
replace it,
100%.
right?
Like, listen,
Yeah.
you
So
told me that. I'm like, this dude, they're like, where's the fine print? Like, come on. I'm literally
right,
like, from New
right.
Jersey. We don't believe anything anyone else says, anywhere, any way, shape, or time. And truth be told, I honestly have not broken a pair of these yet. But Mike did hook me up with a couple, so maybe that's why, because I'm always rotating them around or
There you
whatever,
go.
right? So I haven't tested the policy, but I can totally see it happening where like a guy on my shift would hear that and be like, "Oh, what's that website? Let me do it right now," you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the name of the game. We wanted to create a product for us that's going to benefit us in multiple ways. So one of them, what's the big problem? We break them, right? They're expensive and we break them. So we got something that's not quite as expensive. If you break it, again, one time, no questions asked, we replace it. And additionally, we give a portion of all of our sales back to the First Responders Children's Foundation. So we're supporting the families of the loved ones left behind by somebody who's given the ultimate sacrifice in service to their community or become critically injured to the point where they can no longer operate in the job. And it helps to take care of those families. So by supporting the brand, you're supporting like the entire first responder community. And we're making a pretty big impact for being so small and so young. We're only 3 years old. So
Which is epic too, to be able to give back in a way like that. And I feel like, you're using your business school knowledge here, that business thing that I know nothing about, but right, you're checking all the boxes, like good warranty, they look cool, they're comfortable, we give back, right? There's got to be a class that you probably took in college that was like all these things, and you just got to keep applying them, right?
pretty much, pretty much. I mean, at the end of the day, like the customer is the most important person. It's not about, I mean, obviously it's about dollars and cents because if you don't make enough money, the business goes
It's
under.
not going to
But
work.
the companies that are greedy, and trying to get as much, bottom line and jack up their prices to increase their profits, they're not really doing anything for the world and making a positive impact. And that's what we do. We're firefighters, right? Like we are helpers. Our whole like ethos in life is to like help and like make the world better. And so if I'm going to put a brand out there, I want to make sure that brand does that same thing and practices what I've preached and done for my whole life, and that my business can be a channel for good.
I think that's one of my favorite things when I meet like a firefighter entrepreneur type person with a business or whatever, and even in my own experience with working with a few fitness companies and things, that we take that person first, no matter what, right? Just like they're our patient, or we're going in to put ourselves in harm way for them. You treat your customer the same exact way. And I know my own experience with a few different companies and working for them. Someone had an issue, and I would just call them and they would be like, wait, who is this? And I'm like, it's Pip from this company. And they're like, no, it's not. I'm like, who the hell else would it be? Like, who would be saying that I'm me? Like, this is me behind this company, or like working with this company. You have a problem. Well, let's work it out. You know what I mean? Where you don't see that kind of customer service anymore.
Right. Right. It's a dying breed. We kind of took the philosophy of like Zappos shoes. They have like a very customer centric idea. They, reward people for like who had the longest customer service call. There's a
Wow.
report once for one of the CEO, I think the CEO and a couple other people were trying to find somewhere to eat. They were somewhere trying to find somewhere to eat. And so as a challenger, like, let's call the customer service line or company and like talk them through. And they did it. They got somebody on the phone, and that person, it took them a few minutes to figure out like what was going on. But then they got on their computer, put them on hold real fast. And they're like, hey, like if you hang out your apartment, take a left, go 1.5 miles, there's a pizza place that's open right now. They'll be open till 2:00 in the morning. They sell pizza by the slice, right? And it's like, solve the problem. Nothing to do with the shoes, but like customer service. Someone is going to go back. They're going to tell that story. They're going to, it's like,
Sure.
It creates that connection where like, this is a company that cares. And so that's, that's our philosophy. It's in our core values. It's in our mission statement to make sure that every interaction, we're, putting that customer first before anything else, to make sure that there's a positive interaction and experience.
Right. And those folks from Zappos have no clue that, if you walk up to an ambulance or a firehouse and be like, hey, where's a cool place out here to eat? You're going to get the best information from anywhere, because that's what we do, right? It's the same type of thing. 100%. You don't even realize you do it. I just like it'll be like, you don't want to go to that spot. You want to go to that spot, or like, What do you want to eat type of a thing, right? But that's that customer service that we just do because it's natural. And it got lost, I think, in a lot of business, especially with the internet boom and things like that.
Yep. Yeah. But the internet has definitely depersonalized everything. We don't use any like AI bots or anything like that. When you email us, it'll take a little longer for us to get to you. We generally tell people give us at least 24 hours, but we try and get to it within a couple. But we want to make sure it's a real person.
If I message you on Instagram, I'm not going to get an immediate message back that says you're helping me.
No, but it will pop up on my phone, even though I'm not supposed to be the one doing it. Sometimes I just can't help myself. I've got people that help me do all that stuff. And then they always give me a hard time. Like, hey, you're doing my job. And I'm like, I can't help it. They asked a question. I had to answer it. It was so good.
That's a whole different firefighter podcast right there that we can have. Because trust me, I know that feeling very much so, how that goes. Like, no, but I can do it right now. Like, no, it's not your job to do that, right? Like, no freelancing. Like, no freelancing in the business world, right?
Yeah, it's
so hard, especially when it's right here, right? Like, you're getting it right here. Like, here it is. Okay, I can solve this problem. Yeah. Like, let me go.
Yeah. And I can't disconnect, it's my baby. So it's like, I could turn the apps off and not get the notifications, but then I don't know, right? And then it's like, I want to keep tabs on everything and make sure that my customers are being handled correctly, right? So like, I've got to have it, but then it makes me like, oh, I could just respond.
I did not think we had this much in common prior to this conversation, but we're essentially the same person on two different coasts, because I had the same issue, when 555 was becoming popular and having to get more help with it, and then wanting to do the other people's jobs because I did all the jobs or type of a thing. And, but
you gotta delegate.
Yeah. And thank God I had, there's amazing people that have been involved with 555 this whole time, that they helped me learn that lesson, sometimes in harder ways than I wanted to learn it, let's say. But like, you just have to do that because, again, that's us. That's that type of person that gets into this emergency services field, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So look, man, as I said in the beginning, and I look down, I'm like, man, I'm about to keep him over his hour, and he's probably got to go figure out new ways to build new sunglasses and things, which I don't want to do. But we've plugged a lot of things here for Frontline Optics, but tell all the folks out there that are listening where they can find you.
Yeah, so frontline-optics.com. Just head over there. Otherwise, you can get us on Instagram at Frontline Optics, and those are kind of our main platforms. You can find us on TikTok and some of the other places, but we're not very active there. But Instagram, head over to our website. I believe you got a code that you can share with your audience, get them some discount.
We can save you some cash there. It's on the link tree, but it's really simple. You save 15% if you use code TheSizeUp, one word, no dashes on that part of it. Make it nice and easy. I highly recommend, and I don't know what they're called, and I probably should have looked it up beforehand, but the metal frame ones are my favorite.
The Natos.
Yeah, those are not for work. Well, I guess when I'm on the car, but I wear a special pair of sunglasses at work just because I've had them for a very long time, and it's now the tradition is known. But those, like going out, I like those. Those are like my style in sunglasses for going out somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, so our Nato line is, they've got metal temples. They're pretty slick, a lot of different kind of colors. Everything is Coronado themed, if for the most part on there. So Nado is short for Coronado, Pomona, Big Street, Pomona, Glorietas are Big Street and Glorieta. The 6440 Alpha was our strike team designator. So like the names all come from, the roots of Coronado. So I've tried to kind of keep with that tradition as it's gone, but they're all good. They're all good.
They're all good for sure. No, they are definitely all good. Good lenses, good policy, good everything, and it's we're not here. It was cool to hear your story too, like, and plug all this stuff. And I think it's funny because we've intertwined plugs for the sunglasses in through the whole conversation kind of, and talked about so many different things. But again, to me, that's the way to go, as opposed to just be like, buy my sunglasses. They're cool. Here's the latest, greatest, and here's a discount. Like, hearing your story hopefully inspires some more people to want to jump on board and help the cause. Yeah,
I would hope so. Or do it yourself. What if you've got your own passion project that you want to go after? Like, don't feel like you're locked in place, just follow what makes you smile, makes your heart feel good. It'll all work out.
Do like Mike did, because he went to businessy school. Start with the research first, and then take the money and put in some work, but not a lot of it, right? Just a little bit. You started with 300 pairs, because I've known too many people in this business world that are like, I want to sell sunglasses. I bought 1,500 of them, and I'm like,
yeah,
can't be good.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, good luck.
Might be working some overtime to pay for that.
I really wanted to sneak in there too, because I know and we're going to go over an hour now, but you talked about the beginnings and getting the 300 pairs, and we went right into like getting your name out there and things. But how hard was packaging and shipping?
It was tough, especially because you would work, you get overtime, whatever, right? They would start to add up. And at the beginning, it was like, oh, you would sell like 1 or 2 pairs of sunglasses a day. Not a big deal, right? Then it started being 3, 4 pairs of sunglasses a day for 4 days, right? It's like, it's a little bit more to do, but still manageable. And it started getting to like 15, 20 a day. You're like 5, 6 days at work, and you come on your day off and got to pack it. And it became like this whole family thing where my son, my wife, like all of us were in here throwing stuff together in this tiny little office. There were sunglasses like everywhere, piled to the roof. There's some videos online of me like packing stuff in the garage. And then finally I sourced it out to a fulfillment center here in San Diego that managed it all for me. So now it doesn't matter if I get 100 orders in a day, they're all going to go out that day. So it's makes it quite nice. Get to wipe my hands of that.
It's such a small business growth problem that I know so many. And I mean, I experienced alone with 555, where it was like, we did t-shirts, and then let's do gym bags. Cool, let's do it. And we never thought that the gym bag isn't going to fit in the t-shirt bag. We just got really excited about being able to sell gym bags. And then I was like, oh, this was a miscalculation.
Logistics, man. Yeah. It's a real thing.
It's a real thing. Like, luckily, we only bought like 30 lunch bags and 30 gym bags. So we were able to make that correction, where had we been like, no, if we buy 500 of them, this is going to be the ultimate gym bag.
Yeah.
I would still have gym bags in my new house office than in my old one.
Right on. Yeah, you got to start small, right? Always start small and test. So if you are getting into it, like we said, I started with 300. Now, we're obviously selling a lot more sunglasses, but every time we come out with like a new style to test, it's the same kind of thing. We do a very small batch to see if people like it. And then it's going to go out of stock right away if people do like it. And then the next time, we'll buy a big chunk that will sustain. So it's the same things. Never overextend yourself, but always be trying new things. That's the best
piece of advice you can. Like, and again, too, I dealt with a lot of fitness products, and I'm still dealing with fitness products and things, but just weight too. Like, your sunglasses don't weigh that much when you're selling them. But, you try to tell folks, like, I can't, UPS does it by weight. Like, there's just no difference. And you just bought something that weighs 50 pounds. So you have to pay for that to weigh 50 pounds. That's all I got. I got nothing else for you on that.
Right.
Like, such a crazy world, man. Listen, this has been a great time talking, though. And I'd like to get into the Size Up 10 with you here, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
10 quick questions that never go quick. So here we go. But I think I may know this answer. But beach or mountains for you?
Mountains.
See, man, I was going with beach. You're right there at Coronado. So is it because you have it?
You would think. I grew up right next to the beach, but my parents, like, they were from Montreal, and they hated cold water. My dad barely knows how to swim. My mom doesn't like getting her feet in the sand. So, like, as a kid, they, like, never took us to the beach. But there's a bunch of mountains right there in Santa Barbara, so I'd always jump on my mountain bike or jump on my skateboard, and and so I'm at home in the mountains. I love them.
Nice. That's definitely like, I mean, we have it in Jersey too. We have beach or mountains, but like a California positives, you have beach or mountains right there, you know?
Yep.
Where are we at? Number 2, night out or night in?
Night in. Night in. I'm too tired to go out anymore. I got 3 small children, and by the time they're all asleep, I have nothing left. Just give me a movie and a whiskey, and I'm good to go. In bed
I'm right
at 10
there
o'clock.
with you, man. I like a night in as well. So, how about giving me a movie that everybody needs to see?
The original Top Gun.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. The original. The new one wasn't bad,
great
though.
too.
It was good. The original.
But the original it's timeless.
Yeah. You know what I find too interesting? We just talked about this at the firehouse the other day. Like, I showed my kids Jaws, and like the HD TV, they're like, look, the shark is fake. Like, look, you could see it. Like, this is stupid. Like, and then I'm watching it, and the thing that caused me to not go in the ocean for a summer, I'm looking at it, I'm like, God, that doesn't look real. But when you watch Top Gun, it still looks like the real deal. You know, I mean, it is, but it holds through. You know what I mean?
It's like timeless. It doesn't feel, other than the music and some of the cameos and whatnot, it's like, it doesn't feel like an 80s movie, right? Like it. Yeah. But it is.
But it totally is. The music is totally timeless, though. I could listen to that soundtrack all the time. So
I love it. All
right.
Talk to me, Goose.
You're on a cross-country road trip. Who is your celebrity co-pilot?
Celebrity co-pilot? Oh, that's an interesting question.
Famous person co-pilot. I don't know. Keep trying to change the word.
See, I'm not a big fan of celebrities.
You can really pick anybody you want. I just threw that in there because everybody was picking their spouse because they didn't want to get in trouble. So I had to change it.
That's where I was going to go. She's my favorite. She's my favorite. An
unattainable person. They could be dead. They could be living. They could be sports, politics, you name it.
Oh, God. You're really putting me on it.
This is a hard podcast, dude. We don't mess around on the Size Up.
I don't know. I'm a big Andy Frisella fan.
Okay.
That guy is like pretty raw in the way that he kind of approaches everything. No fluff, no nothing. If I went on a cross-country road trip with him, the amount of information I'd have in my brain by the time I got to the other end, I'd be a different person.
It would probably be a lot. You are correct.
Yeah. I'd also probably swear a lot more.
I would imagine. Number 5. Do you make your bed every day?
Yes.
Nice.
Not a full-blown, but like the tuck the sheets back and make it look a little bit nice, but it's not a full-blown,
hospital corners and things like that.
Exactly.
That's all right. You can be honest about it, man. That's what I do. I said I just throw the thing over it, but it's made, and I'm happy with it. That's my first thing done every day. How about a book everybody has to read?
I really liked the book Ender's Game as a kid. They made a movie out of it. But the book was that was one of the first books that I ever read for fun that I actually truly enjoyed, cover to cover, even as a kid.
Nice.
That was a really good one. If you're a little more businessy, there's one called Blue Fisher, the Bluefish, something along those lines. If you look it up. And it's basically about how you can get yourself into, any situation, any room. You just have to find the key. And the guy's philosophy of how you can kind of make things happen by servicing everybody in the situation. It's like a mindset that is helpful. I think it's called the Blue Fisher.
The Blue Fisher, okay, because that's definitely not the Blue Fish, because that's about a 13-year-old boy. So we'll go with the Blue Fisher then when I Googled it. Which one are you taking, highways or back roads?
Back roads.
Always. How about a bucket list place to visit?
I've gone to a lot of them. My wife and I travel a lot. Before kids, we traveled a lot. I've still never been out to Thailand area.
Okay.
So I'd like to get out to Southeast Asia. And kind of check out that part of the world, but we've done a lot in North America, South America, Latin America. So yeah, I'll stick with the that region.
That region is fine. We can take a region. I too want to travel there at some point. And as your kids get bigger, traveling with them gets like, my kids carry their own stuff now, so we go on vacation.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's the best part. Carry your own stuff. You don't have to carry them. You carry, like, Dad, should I pack this? Do you want to carry it? No, then don't pack it. That's the answer back. Like,
yeah, I like it.
Which one do you prefer? Football or football?
Football. American football.
American football. Which team? Yeah. Well, so you're in a unique. If you stay geographically, football teams, which one do you root for? Because they're all over the place down there.
I'm still a Chargers fan. I'm not as diehard as I was. I'm not from San Diego, right? I'm from Santa Barbara, so I don't feel as much like they left us to go to Los Angeles. I still feel a little bit of the sting, but not like somebody who's from here. Gotcha. And so, I grew up watching the Dodgers. I grew up watching the Lakers. So, and the LA Kings. I'm a big hockey guy. So the fact that the Chargers are in LA, I don't have a reason, because I don't hate LA teams, to not like them, but I'm still bummed that I'm not going over to the stadium, once or twice a season to tailgate and have like a fun Sunday.
Yeah, that is a unique region of the country these days, like with who's going to play in Las Vegas next, or like who's moving to where, or like just that
a lot of shuffling.
Yeah, like no one, the Northeast, it's it. This is it. This is your teams. You're geographically separated. No one leaves.
Yeah.
The past 20 years for you guys have been
more
interesting, I'd say. Oh no, you froze.
You cut out on me again, Pip.
Nope. Yeah, you froze there.
All right.
You got me? All right, last question then before we freeze again. And I think you've already probably said this, but the best advice you could give to your younger self.
Follow your heart. Love it. Go down the path or the road as it leads you. And when you get to those like deviations in the road, don't be scared to take them.
I love it, man, because again, that's what we have to do, right? And even sometimes, like, you made the decision to leave the job, and it's not an easy decision, but you're following what your heart is telling you to do, and I'm sure it wasn't just like hey, I'm doing this tomorrow. Like, it sounds like you took the time and did all the research and did what you needed to do, and you followed your heart, and you're a happy man these days, selling the sunglasses to all of us.
Absolutely. Yeah, the process took me about 6 months of back and forth every day, and it's a rotten feeling, because
sure.
It's such a cool job. I miss most of the guys that I worked with. I miss the camaraderie. I miss the rippers, getting in there. Like you definitely don't have that feeling. Like if you hang up the phone because you closed a deal, it's not the same as like popping a hole in a roof, but it was the right thing to do. And so.
And that's close, man. That's really what matters. It's the right thing to do, and that's what people have to understand. It's what's right for you, what's right for your family, and that's the key, man. And I wish you nothing but luck, and I'm excited to kind of watch you keep growing as you've been growing before. Like I said, you're the most famous guy in the fire service throwing your sunglasses under tires of a fire truck backing up. So
yeah, I loved it when they wrote me the script and they're like, "Hey, here's what we think we're gonna do." I was like, "Yes, do it." Right?
So. Listen, everybody, thanks for listening in. Check out Frontline Optics on Instagram or their website, frontline-optics.com. Check out their new ad with Jason Patton and Firefighter Fenton there over from Fire Department Coffee and Fire Department Chronicles and Fire Department 8 million other things that our friend Jason Patton does. If you want to save some money, you could use the code THESIZEUP, one word, save you 15% off at Frontline Optics. And as always, thanks for tuning in. This is Pip for the Size Up by National Fire Radio, where what you do off the job matters.
National Fire Radio.